Good morning, Star Wars fans of America. This morning I wake up, get me a boba cup of coffee, slip on my boba booties, and lo and behold, the new Star Wars Rogue One trailer just dropped and it is fantastic. And boy, howdy, does this trailer deliver. Now, it goes without saying that this might contain some juicy spoilers pending on if I got these predictions correct, which guys, at this point, I'm freaking sure I nailed it. So without further ado, the Rogue One, A Star Wars Story trailer breakdown. So, I'm sure you guys can tell from the title of this video what my speculation is on the storyline of this film. I am 99.9999% sure that we are about to see a live action adaptation of the Jedi Knight video game series. Anyone who's played any of the games, I'm sure will agree with me that this is one of the most epic storylines in Star Wars history. Jedi Knight. Now let me convince you why.
State your name for the record.
Jyn Erso.
Now right away, we hear a very familiar name from the Jedi Knight series. Who is that? Jan Ors. Now, she says it a little bit differently in this trailer.
Jyn Erso.
She says something like Jan Arso or something like that, but it's actually known that Jan Ors went by different aliases while she was going through her undercover missions.
Forgery of Imperial documents, possession of stolen property, aggravated assault, resisting arrest.
So right away it looks like she's being arrested for something and they're reading all the different things that she's being arrested for. You know what? Jan Ors was an undercover Imperial agent for the longest time. And she had to do things to maintain her cover, and occasionally that meant fighting the Alliance.
On your own from the age of 15.
Pause right there. Look at that Mon Mothma. Spitting image from Return of the Jedi. As far as I know, she was also the Mon Mothma from the deleted scene in Revenge of the Sith.
Stop the Chancellor from further subverting the Constitution.
Let's keep going.
Reckless, aggressive, and...
Pause! That guy. So right away, I'm seeing a very similar look to Kyle Katarn. And if you don't know who Kyle Katarn is, get the freak off my channel. That guy is a beast, one of the coolest characters in the New Republic era. But let's keep going.
This is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel.
Now, according to Wikipedia, which we know is the most accurate website in the world for Star Wars information, it states that Jan Ors also went by the name of Jan Strange. It also states that she was part of a terrorist organization called the Justice Action Network. That's probably what she was up to before she got captured. Perhaps she was already undercover as an Imperial agent, did some stuff, got caught, and now she's there as well. Couple different rounds you can take on the Jan Ors storyline. Let's keep going.
We have a mission for you.
Pause. I just gotta say, those Star Destroyers, although I know they're most likely CG, look exactly like the models from A New Hope, which shows us how much love and detail are going into this movie to make it look like it's part of the original trilogy, shot on a higher definition camera. Let's keep going.
A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know what it is and how to destroy it.
Boom, right there. So, they've given her an assignment to go find the plans of the Death Star. We already knew this. We already knew that this would be the storyline of Rogue One. But here's another interesting fact from her Wikipedia page. It states, and I quote, Jan Ors met with Mon Mothma and persuaded her to hire Kyle Katarn as a mercenary and commando. It later says Ors provided briefings from Alliance Command to Katarn and served as a pilot of their ship, the Moldy Crow, in their pivotal missions to capture the plans for the first Death Star, and later thwart the Dark Trooper project. We'll get to the Dark Trooper project in just a second.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Boom, pause. Look at the way that the gentleman in the middle is dressed. Now look, they put a jacket on him, and that kind of covers up the shirt and everything that we're used to seeing with Kyle Katarn. But let's take a look at Kyle Katarn from the game. Put these guys side by side. It looks very similar. Looks like the jacket is covering up most of what we're familiar with, but we'll get back to this in a second. Boom, pause. Now the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that iconic white Imperial Admiral uniform was, oh my gosh, it's Thrawn. Obviously, he's not a tall, handsome, blue-skinned, red-eyed fellow, so that can't be Thrawn unless they tweaked things around a little bit to make him fit the story better. However, my prediction is that this is actually General Rom Moak. Moak. He was the general in charge of what was called the Dark Trooper Project. Looks very similar to the way he does in his concept art. We'll take a look over here. Obviously, he's not wearing the white uniform, but maybe he hadn't been made an admiral yet or something. Maybe he was promoted from general to admiral sometime later. I'm still speculating. Leave your comments and predictions down below. Very interesting character to analyze.
What will you...
Now pause right there. Take a look at this Dark Stormtrooper's armor. Now we get to go back and explain the Dark Trooper Project. Now what these Dark Troopers are essentially a half-man, half-machine super stormtrooper. They took old veteran soldiers and gave them cybernetic enhancements, very much like Darth Vader, to make them the most deadly form of soldier in the galaxy. This is where Kyle Katarn and Jan Orris come back into the story. They are heavily connected to trying to stop the facility in which the Dark Troopers are being produced. Oh, and don't believe me that they're Dark Troopers? Let's take a side-by-side and take a look at the similarities between them. Now, the one in the game is a bit bulkier, it's a bit more, it's made for a video game, it's a little bit dramatic, but there is no doubt seeing the similarities between these two images. And with that, let's keep going.
when they catch you?
Pause. Okay, so they're running through some kind of factory, droid in tow. I'm gonna go back to Wikipedia for a second. Now this is on Kyle Katarn's official Wikipedia page. It reads, Katarn's first mission for the Alliance was the infiltration of an Imperial facility on Danuda. Danuda? I think that's how you say it. To retrieve the plans for the first Death Star as a part of Operation Skyhook. Now if we jump over to the Danuda Wikipedia page, here's a photo of Kyle Katarn sneaking up on one of the Imperials. Tell me that doesn't look a little bit like the facility that they're running through right now. Under the information for Danuda, it reads, points of interest, the Danuda Temple and the Imperial Research Facility. What on earth might have they been researching in that facility? Well, there's maybe the Death Star and the possible Dark Trooper project, which obviously, with the presence of these Dark Troopers all over the trailer, is becoming a bigger threat at this point.
What will you do if they break you?
I'll be honest, it's been a long time since I've played the Jedi Knight series, but if you guys have any idea of who this guy might be, leave a comment in the section below. Now we see this Imperial Admiral, if what I'm seeing in his uniform is correct, walking towards what looks like a temple in the background, stormtroopers floating dead all over the water. This just seems like something that Admiral Thrawn would have done. Like he would go after the battle, take a look at the beauty of death and war before him and analyze every little thing to better understand his enemy. But what's interesting is that in this shot, the Admiral's hair is much darker. Now, one before was like an old man, white withered hair. This one is jet black. Who also has jet black hair? Admiral Thrawn. It's possible that the guy we saw before might have gotten booted, killed, demoted, whatever, and Admiral Thrawn steps into the story, thus mantling the white iconic Admiral uniform. Okay, boom. We see what we can only speculate as a Dark Lord of the Sith kneeling before some giant. It almost looks like a frozen Bacta tank of some sorts. Imperial guards standing in the background. Now, my first thought when I saw this, because it was just a flash, is that this might be Darth Vader, but it seems like the figure is hooded. I'm not quite sure who this might be. I'm putting my money on Darth Vader, but let me know what you guys think. Let's keep going.
If you continue to fight...
Pause. Okay, so now we get a better look at this guy's outfit, okay? His jacket is off. He's got a sling on. You know what? Let's put this side by side back here again. There's some visual similarities there. The costume is very similar indeed. There's a lot of evidence pointing towards this guy being Kyle Katarn and this woman being Jan Orris. But looking past that, oh my God, Look at those freaking AT-ATs, AT-ATs, walking in the background, nostalgia level 50, going crazy. I'm sitting here sipping my coffee, just energy spewing out of my face. This was the most epic shot in the entire freaking trailer.
What will you become?
What will you become? Now, I think that's a purposeful misdirection for the audience. I'm guessing that this is her undercover operation, perhaps before she was recruited by the Jedi Alliance, or just another undercover operation to get into the facility. You know, she didn't turn to the dark side. This is Jan Orso, or whatever she says at the beginning of the trailer. The evidence has mounted in favor of this storyline following the Jedi Knight series. Again, one of the best storylines in Star Wars history. This has to be it, guys. This has to be it. And I'm so excited because people who haven't played the game are going to experience a story that, to me, holds a light to the original trilogy, holds a light to the prequel trilogy, a bigger, badder, fatter light. And I held this story up to the caliber of games like Knights of the Old Republic. Guys, this was the classic golden era of Star Wars LucasArts video games. And the last comment I'll give is that this, to me, is evidence that Lucasfilm is going back and borrowing, or maybe even adapting completely stories that have been loved and embraced by Star Wars fans since the beginning. This game was highly, highly loved by so many of my friends, including myself growing up. This might actually give a shot to stories from games like Knights of the Old Republic, Republic Commando. And I'm going to say it again because Knights of the Old Republic. Support the crap out of this movie and maybe we'll see even more beloved stories come to life in live action. What are your guys' thoughts, predictions, theories? Leave them in the comment section below. Hopefully we're the first ones on the internet to figure out that this is based on the Jedi Knight series. Grab this link, throw it on Facebook, throw it on Twitter, throw it everywhere you can possibly find, every forum, every Star Wars discussion. Let the world know that Siege Films and Dungeon Crawlers was the first to figure out that Jedi Knight is indeed Rogue One. I'm Jared Siege with Dungeon Crawlers. I'm out.